Get ready for the Ochelli Effect. The most underrated voice in all media. The alternative's alternative. Chuck Ochelli.
It is July 7th, 2017, allegedly, according to that thing we call a calendar. This is indeed the Ochelli Effect, broadcast live, originating from the facilities of Ochelli.com, carried on several other networks, and we do appreciate all of you, of course, autonomousmedia.net, in addition to, geez, I'm not sure about Fridays. You know, Friday's an odd schedule. There's some that are on and some that are off, but either way, no matter how you're encountering the show via your Foundle slab of choice, your applicable application, we appreciate you. So here we are tonight. It is a Friar's Day, and I'm almost a touch nervous considering the fact that it is 7/7 of 2017. I don't know, the numerology thing gets to you a little bit. Now, that little laugh in the background, somebody I did not plan on initially bringing on the show, although I love having him every single time. First time he's been on since I've been over here, Pearse Redmond, who does Porkins Policy Radio. the Porkins, I love that because it's just like immediately I go Star Wars. Not everybody does. But no, the show is not about Star Wars, not at all. So, you know, you guys who have been with me for a while will definitely be familiar with them. But those of you that are not, let's say hello to Pearse Redmond. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Chuck.
You know, it's odd. You and I, we have this interesting thing going on where occasionally one of us drags the other into our radio show with no real game plan.
Yeah.
No, it's not like, hey, look, I'm trying to promote something, Pearse. You want to bring me on? And you go, yeah, sure, we'll bring you on next Tuesday. You know, and of course, Pearse's show is heard on Tuesdays. So when he says, see you next Tuesday, makes a little more sense. Anyway.
I was instantly reminded of the last time I dragged you on the show. I think it was for 2 hours on a Tuesday, and you had a toothache or something. And it was. I had a great time on the show. I know, Chuck, you did not have as much of a fun time recording that because you had this, horrible pain, and then you had to later, you had a little break, and then you had to go talk for another 2 hours. So I thought I would, pay it forward. And obviously, I mean, I always love coming on the show. So thanks for having me on. Especially now on your sort of new network. I'm very excited.
Well, that's an interesting thing, too, because your show is still airing on American Freedom Radio. Of course, I've noted that your show does air on a couple other networks in replay form, too. That's interesting. Don't know if you're aware of it. As the thunder begins to roll, by the way, did you hear that?
Yeah, I did a little. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
cool.
I mean, I know it's replayed on a bunch of networks today, actually, later today. And that's just basically thanks to our mutual friend, Ed Opperman.
Yeah, right. Ed does that. He's kind of an interesting guy, too. He connects people together, and he still has a show on American Freedom Radio. So just in case people think I'm like totally hostile to AFR, I'm not. Some of my friends are still there. And Pearse is one of them. Okay, so now that we've dispensed with all that and I've done my unconventional introduction, what is on your mind today, Pearse? Because, man, it is a strange planet that we seem to be both standing upon. I don't want to get into the argument about the shape of it either. But the fact is that, and I will always do that whenever I get ready to say we're standing on a globe or a rock or whatever. You know what? I always nod at the people that have that argument, and then I just don't bother to engage them. And in the second hour, just so everybody knows, I'm going to talk to Dylan Wade, and we're going to be discussing films and media and stuff like that. So should be an interesting day here on the show. So anyway, back to what I was asking you. What's on your mind, Pearse? Because man, is it politics? Is it media? Which is which anymore? I had on the progressive liberal wrestler on Monday. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah. I didn't listen to it yet. I just downloaded it a few days ago.
Well, I knew that you would be interested in that, because that's just got to be a weird sounding interview for me to be talking to that guy, right? But he was actually really cool. I find it fascinating to get into the head of somebody who does that a little bit, and and discuss the fact that he's sort of getting attention all of a sudden because there's these great dividing lines politically and socially, in fact, because these things are so well intermingled in this country, and in fact on a global scale. Yes, I said global. There's a lot of things that could be running through your mind, but you are an unconventional kind of guy. So where's your head at right now?
Well, before I even jump into where my head's at, I'll just say, speaking of wrestling, I was at a 4th of July party, a good friend's house, and a friend of a friend was there who turns out to be a writer for WWE. And he had some really tremendously interesting stories that I probably can't talk about on the air about working at WWE and McMahon and Trump and the sort of insanity that goes into wrestling. But what's on my mind right now? I don't know. I've been sort of a bit in a kind of summer decompression chamber lately, so I'm not really working quite so much right now. I've sort of taken a couple of weeks off from my day job, and kind of enjoying just sort of waking up and watching the Tour de France and reading comic books most of the day, and sort of tuning out a bit. But I have, I always like want to do that when it comes to the summer, and I do enjoy, kind of just tuning out from the news. But I always find that about 2 or 3 weeks into it, I kind of get that, I'm sure you get this too, Chuck, is that sort of nagging sense that you're missing something, that you're not connected the way you should be. And I sort of go through the news withdrawals, and then I start checking obsessively, the news. So I've been doing that a bit more lately. I don't know. I'm struck by the, almost calling it a news cycle is almost like a joke at this point, because it's really just like whatever is faxed out that day to every reporter on the planet, mainstream and alternative, and it's just a sort of that's what I've noticed, is the sort of back and forth. The mainstream gets their faxed talking points, and then the alternative gets their faxed talking points, and they essentially play off one another very well. And I've noticed that more and more the past couple of days, as I've sort of jumped back into following everything and sort of analyzing the media as best I can. With this ridiculous CNN doxing somebody and the response of that and the back and forth. But again, I'm always sort of struck by those stories being so loud, and so kind of in your face. And yeah, it's a serious thing. CNN sort of threatening to reveal the identity of some, idiot on the internet who makes a stupid meme. Of course, Trump didn't have to retweet this, but he did. And that is sort of scary. On the other, side of it, it's, I've seen these sort of stories that the person in question has said all these horrible, racist, anti-Semitic things online, and of course the alt-right, which refuses to use that term for themselves, but basically right-wingers defending this person, and to a degree, correct. in doing so. Yet, the context of this. Well, wait, is this guy a racist? Is this guy just some sort of, the sort of typical 4chan right-wing racist troll that we see on the internet? Is that who it is? And ultimately, should we feel all that bad for this person? No, I don't think so. I think it's the larger sort of sense that a media organization would go so far, again, over some little idiot, some troll, some nobody. But
Pearse, wait. Let me interrupt you for a second, because here's the interesting thing to me about all this. Is this unusual in American, alleged journalistic history, that somebody is outed as a result of something that they put out into the public venue? I mean, that's not unusual at all, regardless of the sentiment. That's happened many times. People have all of a sudden gotten famous. They didn't want to be famous, but maybe they authored something. Maybe they put their money behind something. And the next thing you know is the story catches fire for one reason or another. Now, in this case, it's the, Twitter shenanigans of our POTUS that caused this to even get anybody to take notice. But there have been other people who've done things who have, even on a local level in the past. I remember, yes, I'm going to go do the old man thing here. When we didn't have the internet, we didn't really have the integrated cable news networks really functioning together or any of that nonsense. And you could see a story begin with one piece of graffiti where the next thing you know is there's a gang behind it. There's one individual who started it. They become famous in an entire region of the country. And meanwhile, the real intent and everything else is lost sort of in the media storm. And again, it's the unintended celebrity thing. I think back to Andy Warhol, right? Everybody gets their 15 minutes at some point. Occasionally, though, you might not get it for the thing that you want to get it for. So it happens. I don't see the CNN blackmail. Come on. Give me a break.
Well, the other thing, too, is that it's this, again, people are just shocked to discover that there's no anonymity online. It's that to me was the funniest part, is that did this person and did the whole alternative media and the alternative community really think that you could, post something anonymously on a Twitter account or wherever the hell this person, or Reddit, I believe it was, that put this meme up, and that a news outlet couldn't find them? We probably could have figured out who this person was, with just a cursory, some cursory sort of internet sleuthing. It's very easy to figure out who people are, where they live. All these, markers are out there on the internet. To me, that was maybe even almost a sort of the unspoken story, is that while now CNN might, make this seem like, oh, we had our toughest, hardest hitting journalist investigating this person. I mean, he probably delegated it to some intern of his, go on Reddit, find this guy, click on his name. Oh, boom. Next thing you know, here's his Twitter account. Oh, and he posted a picture, or he made some reference to his job. And then through his job, we pull up the employee list, and there he is. This is the person that did it. It's very simple. Well, what it is too, is just that is this like loud ass story that everybody seems to have an opinion on. They have to, either fall in the CNN is great, CNN is a blackmailing organization, this is so horrible, the police state is coming, oh my God, the media is clamping down on us, while there's actual news happening in the background. There's real stories going on all over the place, from local things to international. There's a million different, I could just rattle off. Syria, Yemen, the G20 conference, what we were talking off air earlier today, the acquittal of this cop that shot a man in Minnesota, the Manchester bombing, still ongoing. Everyone is just sort of, that's become who cares, like so many of these other stories, just sort of in the background. Yet CNN is going on and on about this. Then these right-wing, journalists, in air quotes, like Mike Cernovich and others, are going on and on about CNN. They both feed into one another. Both of these entities look foolish and ridiculous that they're even stooping to this level, with CNN, and then that the so-called alternative media thinks that the response is to stoop even lower, to cover this, to sort of go, we've got to form some sort of campaign. And again, too, if I hear one more call from the InfoWars and all of those sort of people that CNN is done, CNN is over, it's the end of an era, now it's all going to be alt media. What are you talking about? CNN stock is going through the roof. This has been the best. They're getting people that are actually tuning in. Now, they may not be tuning in out of any, curiosity or because they're credible, but this is a huge boon for CNN. Again, CNN and the Washington Post, which are the two sort of big outlets that are going after Trump in perhaps the most obvious sort of ham-fisted way. And they're at the forefront of pushing garbage stories, at whatever, fake news, whatever you want to call it. But they're very much at the forefront of that.
But I contend, but hang on.
Trump.
But that's the thing. They are banking Trump. This is what the problem is. I contend that this is a completely fictitious thing. That and look, I'm in the state where CNN is headquartered. I'll tell you what.
Oh, absolutely. It's all some plan, or maybe not plan, but they're thanking him for this.
Well, here's what cannot be denied, okay? And this is the part of the story where this isn't my opinion, okay? If you take a look at the amount of coverage that they give per day to Trump, his scandals, his tweets, everything else, it is practically as though, 60-70% of their programming time is spent on Donald Trump, first of all, okay? Secondly, and you can't dispute it. You go ahead, take a sample. I dare you. Any day that they're not running some sort of documentary marathon like they did on the 4th of July or whatever it was. But anyhow, when they're actually running new programming, okay. So there's that, and then who is running his 2020 presidential reelection campaign commercials? CNN.
Yeah.
So you're getting revenue, you're getting ratings, you're getting your actual content all from the Trump brand, are you? Oh, so you're the big enemy of Trump. Right. Something doesn't make sense. See, it does bring us right back into wrestling, doesn't it? I'm the bad guy. No, but I'm the better guy, and I'm the American, and we're all getting together here in this square circle to face off. And there it is. Meanwhile, everybody gets a paycheck at the end of the day, and they all work for the same corporation. Hint. Anyhow, this is the way it really works. And I can't. They did take a non-story here, and the alt media just went right along with it. Oh, look, they're terrible. When to me, it's a non-story. If you do something in the public domain and it captures attention, you are bound to be outed. I don't care if you made a painting, if you produced a song, it doesn't matter. Now people are going to dig into your life, find out who you are, and it is extremely easy to do in the internet age. No one is hidden, and there is no such thing as privacy. And if you think you have it, I can introduce you to at least, half a dozen, even half-assed hackers that'll get right into it and show you how little privacy you really have. And again, you don't even need a hacker to do that. Like you said, just a little bit of, tenacity about chasing down. Okay, here's a similar name. Here's something else. Here's a couple things in common. You trace these people down. People's Twitter handles often match something. So all of a sudden there's this. Oh, now there's some real information. They actually shared personal information over here. Blah, 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 blah. Now there's a couple of dead end ones out there that are interesting that sometimes produce tons and tons of stuff. You wonder who actually is behind those because there is no personality connected to them. Hint again. But anyway, it's a non-story. It really is. And meanwhile, here's the thing that I found totally bizarre, and I want to throw this into the mix of what you're talking about. I want to know which alt media radio show Roger Stone is listening to, because while Trump is over at G20 and nobody's paying attention to G20 because once again, what do we have? Protests and the police reaction and the street action and, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, same business as usual. Of course. Oh, I've already seen this television show. Click, change the channel. Okay. Gotcha. No problem. I know why you're not paying attention. But what I found relatively interesting is Trump just, no context or anything else. They're all over here talking about Podesta and the DNC. Now, the only people that are talking about Podesta and the DNC at this point in time are his alt-right sycophants who are in alternative media, who are on it, who are still screaming Pizzagate, who are still screaming Hillary Clinton needs to be locked up, who are still screaming, and this is what's going on. So I want to know which radio show Roger Stone was listening to today, because he's still in his ear. Guarantee you that. I don't know if you saw the recent they put out a new documentary not long ago on Netflix, which I just caught. It's called Get Me Roger Stone. Pretty revealing.
I saw it was up. I didn't watch it yet.
Pretty revealing and interesting. You see that Stone is sort of a troublemaker, but definitely a true believer in the Republican Party, except there might be some personal reasons why he changed his tune a little bit. Interesting stuff there. And I wish he would come back on the show. He had said when he came on my show that he listens to my show. I don't think he does anymore. But the offer is open, Roger, in case you are. You can contact me at any time.
Well, he unblocked me on Twitter pretty fast when I think it was when the Clintons' War on Women came out, or one of his books, and I asked him about Jeffrey Epstein, and he got very uncomfortable very fast, called me a bunch of names on Twitter, and instantly blocked me. Assured me there was nothing untoward about Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump's relationship, that it was, that he had covered it in his book, and he was convinced that there was no problem whatsoever with any of that.
He was on the plane, but he didn't partake at Orgy Island. Is that about the storyline there?
The sort of he didn't inhale kind of, excuse with the Donald Trump. Well, I don't even think, I'm fairly sure Stone hasn't even gone that far. He's really sort of been like, there is no story, that maybe they knew each other, but there's nothing really here. The focus is always Bill Clinton. And I still see that anytime there's some sort of, that Clinton Pizzagate, that sort of nonsense comes up. It's almost at this point like there is some mental block. Like these people truly, I believe they believe there is no connection between Trump and Epstein, because the, alt media, particularly people like Mike Cernovich, have been very good about crafting that narrative so that Donald Trump is some sort of angel who has nothing to do with this person, even though they, Clinton flew on the plane 25 plus times. Well, Donald Trump knew Epstein for 25 plus years, Yeah. This isn't like dismissing one or the other. This is just saying there's something, also just the mere fact that the internet has been scrubbed of pictures of Epstein and Trump and Prince Andrew from back in Mar-a-Lago during some sort of charity tennis tournament should tell you something. About the lengths to which these people will go to erase connections between themselves, but also the lengths to which people will go to pretend as if this isn't even going on, that there is no connection, there is no relationship. It doesn't matter that multiple victims of his came from Mar-a-Lago. It doesn't matter that there's pictures of Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell from years and years ago, back in the 1990s. Okay? This is before she went to Chelsea Clinton's wedding. It's the same way that people sort of erase the fact that the Clintons and the Trumps are very close friends, or were at least,
Well, and I also love the fact that people ignore the idea that Trump was involved in the modeling agency thing. At the same time, Epstein was, and there's some little bit of interaction there that might have happened. This person's legal team was here, that person's Well, all my contention is, and I had him on about that Clinton's War on Women book, by the way, because I found a lot of it to be valid. Honestly, I'm somebody who has no problem attacking a scumbag. I don't care what color or tie they're wearing.
Sure.
All right. So no, I realized that Bill Clinton was not a good guy. Okay. And I'm especially disgusted by the whole thing about whether he's denying his son. In fact, I found that to be the most compelling part of that book. Now, look, you and I could discuss that and we could argue about it or whatever. I don't know what you think about it, but I find it interesting. I find it interesting that at one point it seemed as though he was sort of acknowledging him, but on the sly, but then not. And if you take a look at this kid, geez, he's nearly my age.
Yeah.
But you take a look at Danny Williams, and I think that's his name. Yes. And you know what? He looks just like a black Bill Clinton. I mean, let's be blunt. In some pictures, I mean, it's like, yeah, okay, looks to me like that might be your boy. And nothing is acknowledged. I think that's horrendous, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to back off of the fact that Trump has business dealings with all sorts of slimy characters beforehand. He's an outsider. He's not part of the corrupt establishment. No, not at all, huh? Okay, you mean the same guy who said that he bought politicians anyway? That's not part of the corrupt establishment. Okay, he's just been given a title finally. You can't have even done business in the Northeast where he did it in the, in contracting and building without having dealt with Italian businessmen at certain points. It's impossible. Understand, if you were to pour anything more than a driveway in New York City, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, during the time when Trump was actually building a lot of things with cement, guess who you had to deal with? There was this guy named Paul Castellano who seemed to own a lot of companies up there. Matter of fact, every damn company where you could get a significant amount of cement from, okay? You weren't going to get enough cement to pour a building from Home Depot. It's just that simple.
Well, here, let me throw this one at you, Chuck, because this is, again, these people that pretend as if these connections don't exist, there's nothing here. Alan Dershowitz, okay? Now, whatever one may think of Alan Dershowitz, all right? And again, I'm speaking as someone very involved in the OJ research community, all these, I at one point, had not respect for Dershowitz because I think he's a horrible person, but I at least understood that, as a lawyer, he is something to maybe not admire is the right word, but he is, he's a smart man. He knows what he's doing to some degree. This guy he's not a fool. How about that? No, exactly. No, he's not a fool. And maybe his stance on Palestinians and Israel and that made my stomach turn. Okay, but in terms of the cases that he went after and his adherence to the law, okay, and his defense of the law and right and wrong, Israel aside, okay. I can kind of, Dershowitz and I had some common ground there, okay? Now, cut to his deep involvement and lifelong friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and defending Epstein back in the mid-2000s down in Palm Beach, the sweetheart deal, all of these things. Remember, the sweetheart deal that Trump's now labor secretary was in charge of pushing through down when he was the U.S. attorney down in Palm Beach, that same guy. Alan Dershowitz is Epstein's lawyer. Essentially, if many of the stories, if Virginia Guafferi and others are to be believed, not only was Dershowitz helping to get Epstein out of this, but he was instrumental within that sweetheart deal gaining immunity for any potential co-conspirators. All right, in that case, which, if we believe Virginia Guafferi, was he himself who participated in sexual acts with her and possibly other underage girls, okay, under Epstein's knowledge. So this scumbag is doing this. All right.
Though I will note for the record, Pearse, just so everybody's aware, he sued and won in court against people that were accusing him of certain aspects here.
Well, he didn't win. They dropped the case. And if you read carefully Dershowitz's statements and even the statements put out by Gualfieri's lawyers, it's not a win. He basically wore them down to a point, and they believed that it was not worth continuing the defamation suit because ultimately it would have just gone nowhere. It would have gone around in circles. Now again, he won this, right? So why does then a few years later, a year or so later, he inserts himself, Alan Dershowitz, into another defamation suit? This time between Gualfieri and Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's pimp and best friend and close friend of Donald Trump's. Dershowitz inserts himself into this lawsuit. He wants to release everything that Ghislaine Maxwell has said, which essentially negates the claims made by Epstein's victim. Now, his case sort of gets not tossed aside, but his requests for these files to be revealed are denied. So, who jumps in to insert himself into this case and to basically take Alan Dershowitz's motion and continue it? Mike Cernovich, who made a documentary that featured Alan Dershowitz years after it was totally proved that this guy defended Epstein. Okay? So now Cernovich has no problem making a movie with Alan Dershowitz, and then Alan Dershowitz basically puts his name onto Cernovich's lawsuit. And Cernovich lies on his website continually, saying that he's doing this for Virginia Gualfieri. He takes a motion that Gualfieri filed against him and made it seem as if it was Ghislaine Maxwell's. And believe me, his lawyers did get back to me on this, and they said they had, quote, no control over the editorial stuff on the website, which again is so. What? So are you saying it's not true? But anyway, that case also eventually gets settled, okay, and Dershowitz is exonerated. This man who had become a social pariah. All right, even after his alleged win down in Palm Beach against this defamation suit, nobody would go near Alan Dershowitz, because he was this creep who helped Epstein and oh my God, and all these people, and again too, nobody wanted to have him on talk shows anymore. He had become totally marginalized. But cut to late March 2017. Where is Dershowitz? At the scene of the crime in Mar-a-Lago, having a meeting with Donald Trump. Then the whole lawsuit thing, Cernovich gets involved in all of that. That lawsuit gets settled. Boom. Alan Dershowitz has a Twitter account that he's active on. Suddenly he's back on Fox News. And who's retweeting Alan Dershowitz? Who basically has a litany of tweets about how wonderful Trump is and how there's nothing untoward about Trump and Russia, blah, blah, blah. Alan Dershowitz.
Well,
so, and the deep connections between all of these people. And again, you can just look at it through the lens of Jeffrey Epstein. That's what connects all these people.
Well, and suddenly Dershowitz is not just back on Fox News, by the way, but also back on CNN as of March and April, too. He sits down with the Donald, and next thing you know is, hey, look, we can call him back up in the regular MSM, huh?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And meanwhile, the alleged enemy of Donald Trump, but somehow or other, they get his approved people on there, don't they? Huh. I don't know, just something to ponder. Maybe it's just my suspicious mind. But all these deep connections, right? Nothing to see there. Nothing to see anywhere, apparently, because what you're really supposed to keep your eye on, Pearse, is his Twitter account,
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. No, that's more important what this idiot said. And then it's just like these petty high school BS, like him and he. I don't know anybody that dislikes Mika Brzezinski as much as Donald Trump. I mean, who cares? Why elevate her and Joe Scarborough? God, I mean, what a washed up just idiot. You know,
weird thing with Scarborough too, because this was
dead
a guy
intern?
who 2010 has a dead intern in his office, and really his career was pretty much over. I mean, that's why when people said, "Look, Bill O'Reilly's going to disappear," I told them he'll be back.
Literally, yeah. You look at Scarborough, dead intern, and he's okay.
I mean, literally, that is like one of the oldest jokes in politics and media. You got a dead intern. Is it better to be caught with a dead girl or a live boy? I don't know which. But he was caught with a dead intern. And here we go. And he's back on. It's so revolting to watch the media interaction and this reality TV show star, who I didn't even think was that big of a reality TV show star until people started telling me he was. It's very, very bizarre. And at the same time, I've got something to posit to you, which I have not said on the air yet, but you're the kind of guy I can bring up my wilder ideas with. And so I love doing this. I am under this bizarre idea because remember during the campaign they were talking about, oh, look, Hillary looks sick. She looks like there's something wrong with her. She might have had a stroke. Remember that head injury when she supposedly fell down?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. Something's wrong with her. Okay. A lot of doctored stuff, a lot of out of context stuff was used to make that point online, although it did appear kind of interesting. I have something else to add to the equation here. First of all, just like our friend Ronald Reagan, okay, because I contend, just in my own personal way, I have no direct evidence, I just have a suspicion here that as of 1984, he was already beginning to suffer from Alzheimer's. I really believe that. He died in 2004, I believe, which would be a particularly long arc for the Alzheimer's disease to have taken hold on him, okay? But it appears to me as though, and it could have been brought on, in fact, expedited by the fact that there was that assassination attempt. Okay, if you take a look at physical injury and trauma and things like that, and also the fact that he'd been through the surgery for cancer, it would actually make some medical sense that Ronald Reagan may indeed have been suffering from Alzheimer's. And if you take a look at some of his public performances, some of the stuff that was filmed behind the scenes, you can see the guy was slipping. Some people said he had been demoralized because of certain other problems, and then of course Iran-Contra deflated him and all that. But I think maybe he was actually suffering from a medical problem that was kept well covered up all the way till the day he died, and nobody will acknowledge that there is a very long process involved with Alzheimer's. Okay, I'm taking a look at some of the body language that Donald Trump is displaying. I'm taking a look at some of the odd physical tics, I will call them, in some of his displays. And I'm very much wondering if there is a neurological problem here that nobody is going to address because he is a useful idiot to keep everybody distracted. I'm serious, Pearse. I really think that there may indeed be a need for a physical examination of the man to determine his fitness for office. And it's not because I want to see President Pence come in, but quite honestly, if you've got somebody who is really on the edge of going what we used to call senile, with their fingertips on the nuclear switch and with the nuclear codes in their pocket, I'm not comfortable, okay? And I wasn't comfortable with Reagan. I thought it was strange, and I was only a kid back then, but I thought his activity was odd. I thought he was an odd-looking guy, and he had some odd physical characteristics, body mechanics that he was displaying. I contend the same thing about Trump. I really do feel as though this guy may actually be fully unaware of how bizarre his actions are. And that would be the case if he was suffering from not necessarily Alzheimer's, but some other cognitive dysfunction. This is my theory, mind you, and I wonder what you think of it.
Well, but I actually, now that you say that, the past couple of days or weeks, whatever, when I've been watching stuff with Trump, I was sort of, I enjoyed very much the conversation you and Michael Swanson had on neurolinguistic programming and the way that Trump and, businessmen and people that sell, pyramid schemes and all that use neurolinguistic programming. And I was just sort of watching, to hear Trump and because it goes beyond just the repeating thing. There's lots of different elements here. But the repeating thing is interesting because sometimes it really it strikes me more along the lines of what you were just saying, that there's something amiss with him, that sometimes he's repeating himself in an odd way that I think is not just that he can't think of the words to say, but it's almost like a compulsion to repeat it, or some sort of and I'm not saying this is like a tick or anything. I worked with a guy for a little while who had Tourette's. This is not.
No. I was just going to say, when I used the word tick, I didn't mean to draw a parallel to something like Tourette's.
No, because it's completely different. There's something with Donald Trump where he repeats himself the way you might notice with like your grandmother or grandfather, an older person in your family or around you, the way that they might repeat things. It sort of reminds me more of that. I think there, particularly when you see a young Donald Trump, okay, and you see the way he composed himself, the way he spoke in interviews. Now, yes, there are tons of young Donald Trump interviews where he's nasty and vindictive and acts like this little turd and very narcissistic. But there is a certain amount of almost class with the way he would carry himself to this level now where he truly acts unhinged. These sort of rants online, these are the types that this is not the behavior of someone that's playing with a full deck. And this isn't
hang on just a second, because you know what? I think the word you might be looking for is a very strategically presented swagger is what he had before. I don't know about class, because I never found him to be a classy guy. But you know what I'm saying? There was like a definite I am the alpha dog sort of presentation, which, some people get into that mindset and they find it to be very useful. They're usually very narcissistic and in some cases kind of psychopathic. Really, and definitely narcissistic. But he had that alpha dog thing, and now it's like a very faded echo of the former alpha dog presentation. But the reason why I bring this up now is because he's totally talking about the Podesta thing over there, and I'm joking, which alt media, because they're just echoing that around the alt-right, Podesta, Pizzagate, the possibilities, Hillary, DNC, servers, emails, the other emails,
deep
Benghazi.
State.
It's just deep state. It's just repetitive, okay? But either he's getting it from that echo chamber or the echo chamber is a bit damaged in his own head. Yeah. And he really thinks that's what's going on. While he's over at the G20, it shows a complete disconnect from what's happening. Not even a discussion about what's on the streets, what's happening, which, again, I said everybody ignores because it happens all the time. But, yeah, you're seeing somebody who is actually disconnected. That didn't happen. It couldn't have happened. I don't care if 10 people told me it happened. But, okay.
Yeah. No, that exactly. This goes beyond playing politics and I know what you mean. There is almost this, and I think and I think even myself, I don't want to believe it because it is kind of scary that imagine if the president has dementia or the beginning stages of that or some sort of mental issue going on with him, where he really is not in his full capacity. He's not playing with a full deck, which then, of course, is who's controlling him, if anybody. What happens in a sort of 9/11 Dick Cheney scenario, or Alexander Haig after you mentioned Ronald Reagan. Similar, who's in power right now?
That was a little Keystone Cops kind of thing there, because Alexander Haig's I am in control.
Right.
Actually, you're not.
I think that's it. And it's so funny too. You brought up the Hillary thing. It was totally okay to talk about Hillary's health, and I think with some validity to it. Yeah, what the hell is going on? She's got pneumonia, but she's hugging a little girl. She got it from Robbie Mook, or all of those sorts of things, and then the fainting. Obviously, even if it was nothing more than she had the flu, it's still like, okay, but even so, why are you covering it up? Why, there's so many questions there. That was totally fine to talk about. But there is this, God forbid you talk about Donald Trump and the mental illness question. Again, it's mental illness is no, you can't talk about that. It's fine if Hillary has pneumonia or, Parkinson's or something like that. But, mental health is such a taboo topic here, still to this day. I think especially with the people that Donald Trump appeals to most, these are the, disgruntled white guys from 20 something to, 35, 40. Depression doesn't exist for them. It's just take a salt tablet, walk it off. There's no problem here. This sort of strong, silent type. Yet there is I think sometimes people kind of play it up in the media. Everyone loves is Donald Trump, crazy? What does this clinical psychologist have to say? But this isn't, a question of is he, quote, crazy? He's like a psychopath or he narcissistic personality disorder, all those things. No. What if it's something much more simpler? That this guy is just truly not with it. That he's losing his mental fortitude, like something like an Alzheimer's or dementia. I don't trust his physician for a second.
No. But see, that's the thing here. Like I said, nobody would touch it with Reagan either. But when we look back, if you look back objectively, because I know I'm now attacking a sacred American icon, but and I find that hysterical. There used to be weekly news programs on this guy showing all of his flubs and gaffes and everything else that were just amazing while he was in office.
Yeah.
But what's amazing to me is that, people have deified him to a point where this was a real American. We need to get back to people like that. And they don't realize the very odd sort of behavior that you can observe if you just look back objectively. He couldn't remember people's names. He didn't remember what he was doing. He would get tired very often. He was napping a lot. He couldn't, really work long hours anymore. He was slipping. I mean, let's be honest. Either he was slipping simply because he was an old man or he was slipping because he was sick. One or the other had to be true. And I see that. And then I look at Trump, and I'm not saying that Trump and Reagan are the same people, because I think that Reagan at his heart felt as though he could delegate to other people how to do things. And because they were real Americans, they would go get the job done. I think he was a true believer. But Donald Trump is a different animal. And when you take that and then you start kicking out some of the bricks in the foundation of psychological well-being, it gets very, very dangerous very, very quickly. And I'm not a fearful person. I don't believe in fear. But I can be made a little nervous if I think somebody who doesn't have a full cognitive set of abilities is in control of the military as the commander-in-chief, although he's turned most of that over to the Pentagon, actually has the ability to launch a nuclear strike if he so chooses, and has the ability to do a lot of other interesting things that people don't even consider ever, like declare states of emergency and do other things without any sort of approval from other branches of government. Do you really want a guy who's not thinking entirely clearly? And I'm not saying he's like that 24 hours a day, but what I'm saying is within the first 6 months of him being in office, I'm seeing evidence of what it looked like to me, similar to what was happening to Reagan 5 years in.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
It's like that, and you'll see this with Trump a lot too. When he's supposed to be giving like a speech or press conference, that this moment where he's completely overwhelmed, and and that's when he repeats himself, and it's not because he's some sort of master. Or I don't think this is some master neuro-linguistic programming. This is this isn't he's like nervous and forgetting. I mean, this is almost like he's getting into some sort of a some sort of a trance, some sort of state where he can't remember things, or he slips up. The repeating thing is not. It just doesn't. Again, remove the idea that this guy is the president. If this was your mother or father, or grandfather, grandmother, uncle, something like that, someone you worked with, a coworker, and you began to see these sorts of things, you may start to wonder, maybe this guy this is a little bit too much for somebody. This is too much work. This is too much stress. This is exacerbating an underlying mental. And again, I don't know why this is like a taboo subject to talk about, and especially in the alt media circles.
But you know me, I don't care. I don't care what's taboo.
Yeah. No, of course. But even more than just the. Here we go. Even on your show, Chuck, I got the fire truck in the background. It's like clockwork.
These are the sounds of New York, folks. Especially for you guys in the UK who are listening right now. This is the sound of New York City.
Yeah, it's just constant fire trucks every day. Outside, right. I live right on like a main street in my neighborhood, so it's like every fire truck feels the need to race down. But
right.
Sort of back to what you were saying too. I mean, the whole question again of his finger on the button. It's also that matter of someone that's not in their mental capacities can be cowed into doing something. You can browbeat an older person who's not in their mental faculties into doing something they wouldn't normally want to do. You know what I mean?
Well, right. And there's a couple of assumptions we're making here, first of all, because, when you bring up the coworker, family member, all that, some of the first assumptions might be drug use, alcohol, which I would not, without some sort of evidence, believe that that's Trump's issue. I don't think it's drug use. I've never known him to be a drug user. I've never known him to be an alcoholic or even someone who drinks in public.
He's a teetotaler.
So I mean, and so I'm giving him actually some credit here that he's not, taking a substance or being given a substance that is messing with his mind. He was the kind of guy who didn't even take stuff like that. So, here we go. So there must be something else wrong. Well, either it's psychological or it's physiological. If this, discontinuity continues, and that's what I see more than anything is a discontinuity between some of his statements, his activities, and again, his body mechanics are getting very strange. And no, it's a taboo subject. You're not allowed to touch it. I know I'm going to get hate mail, but you know what? It's my observation, and you do with it as you wish. But Pearse, I'm so glad that you took the time to go over it with me. We're just about done. Of course, Porkins Policy Radio is heard on American Freedom Radio. Let's see now. I think it's like 4 to 6 p.m. or something like that.
3 to 5.
Oh, 3 to 5. See,
yeah.
It changed recently, though. So
yeah, it did.
Okay, 3 to 5 p.m. in the Eastern Time Zone in America, or the artist formerly known as America, on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. But also, you have a website of your own where people can become Patreons and stuff like that. Tell people about it before the bumper kicks in.
Yeah, my main website is PorkinsPolicyReview.com, and you can find all of the shows that I do there. And if you want to support my work a little bit, you can always become a subscriber on Patreon, and that's just patreon.com/Pearse Redmond. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me out. And if you subscribe at the $5 level, you get a special bonus podcast that I do every month, as well as some other little offers along the way. Whenever whenever I can give them out. I've had some exclusive things with like movies and documentaries from people that have been on my show before that we'll have for the subscribers. But you can find it all on my website, and and I'm on iTunes as well. I'm replayed later on Friday nights also. So lots of different places. I'm also on Ed Opperman's iTunes as well. He always all of my shows are uploaded directly to his iTunes. So also, if you subscribe to Ed Opperman, you can also listen to my show.
Yeah, that's the Opperman Report on iTunes. Of course, you can get my show on iTunes as well and all those other places that Pearse is talking about. But he's a friend of the show, and I really love the fact that I get to talk with you. I think the first time we did a show together, it was pretty interesting. And it has never ceased to have us bring out something that other people are either afraid to talk about or unwilling to talk about. This is why I love having this guy on. And some sometimes, you know what, we might even cover something like a season of South Park, which before we're done, I'm looking forward to September South Park.
So am I. I'm a little bummed they're not continuing with some of the Trump stuff. Although I don't think it's this, I see people kind of criticizing that, this is their secret, right-wing libertarian side coming out. I think it's also just, it's too easy. And ultimately, the best episodes of South Park have nothing to do with current events. The best episode is just the boys being boys. And those are always the funniest.
See, I love the stuff, though, where they do address current trends, but it's usually just for one episode as opposed to an entire season's arc. But you know what? The last season did give us some interesting stuff that I keep using in meme form on the internet now, even like the member berries. Yeah. I love the member berries, man.
Me too. That's like my favorite side character. Even though I know some people really did not like the member berries, I thought that was genius. I loved it. But I almost think they said everything they wanted to say in that season. At this point, it's like, Trump. I also don't really want to listen to Trump when I tune into South Park. I want to laugh.
Absolutely, and you can laugh at Trump all by himself there if that's what you want to tune into. But anyway, this hour of the Ochelli Effect is done. Stick around for the next hour where we'll have Dylan Wade, and I'm sure we're going to be discussing films and media. Pearse could hang around if he wants to, but I don't know if he's gonna, so stick around and you guys can find out. Be right back. Second hour of the Ochelli Effect begins now, and we do appreciate you tuning in. Of course, I am thinking of removing the alternatives alternative moniker from all things, but I do insist that I'm going to keep telling everybody that those that participate in this show, whether you are a listener, a contributor, or somebody who turns around and brings me a guest like a listener did today, interesting one, in fact, I'm going to have on... Let's see now. His exact name is Alan Kay, and he'll be on Monday. He won a television show where they do these, survival TV shows. Anyway, he won a show called Alone in season 1, and interesting guy. We're not just going to talk about the TV show on Monday. So there's a preview of one of next week's guests. Also, we'll have Dr. Richard Allen Miller will return shortly. That one is always a mind-blowing episode when he comes on. Can't wait to get back with the guy who sometimes you can find his ex-wife online calling him the Wizard of Oz, and it is very fascinating. Of course, the usual suspects will also appear next week with some other fascinating topics like Mark Windows, J.P. Satilli, Mike Swanson, etc., and I might even try and throw in an extra surprise or two. So tonight, what do we have in the second hour? Pearse Redmond, of course, Porkins Policy Review or Porkins Policy Radio. Love that. We didn't even talk comic books, really. He mentioned them real quickly, but I'm going to get a chance to talk a little bit about comic book movies with my friend Dylan Wade, who has done, radio shows in the past. He has certainly appeared on this show many times. We've talked about the education system. We've talked about movies, television shows, the media in general. Don't mind the sliding chair noise. Here we go. Dylan Wade, how you doing tonight, man?
Good. I wish I got to listen to the first hour. It actually sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, look, it's a lot of ground to cover with Pearse. I mean, we went from Jeffrey Epstein to the doxing of somebody on Reddit to CNN, what the reality is, pro wrestling. You never know what's going to come up with Pearse, right?
Guess not.
And he actually listens to this show, which I always find weird when I bring on a guest who actually listens to the show. But what are you going to do? So, Dylan, I know you don't listen to the show very much, but you used to.
Don't feel bad. I don't listen to anyone.
Well, neither do I, unless people force me. So, here we go. Now, look, let's start off with the obvious and easy stuff, right? I said comic books. Then, as per usual, a slew of comic book movies coming out once again. Here I go with my complaint. How many Spider-Mans are we going to get now, Dylan? I mean, really.
Okay, I'll grant you this one. It's getting a little infuriating. I was kind of bored with in the lead up to this one, because I actually liked the last reboot. Well, half of it.
Well, I like the entrance of him into the movie with Iron Man there, where they brought him in as a as kind of like, for a brief cameo. I kind of liked that, but the continuing reboots of the Spider-Man franchise is getting a little unnerving, don't you think?
It's a bit like Batman. These reboots are getting a bit old, but I think we're going to be sticking with this one for a while.
Okay, well, yeah, go ahead.
Just based on what I'm reading from the studios on both sides of it, they both sound like they want to continue this with this character and this actor for years. So if we can get one that lasts more than 4 years, I'll be happy.
Well, look, it's hard to say, because look, even when they kept redoing the Hulk, which nobody got right, the fact is they continue to do these things with the idea in mind that they're going to be able to build a franchise out of it. There's going to be sequels, but then when they get absolutely terrible response, or they lose money, or not necessarily even lose money, but they don't make the amount of money that they thought they were going to make. Green Lantern, very good. See what I mean? And the comic books are rife for being made into movies now, especially with the technologies and everything. So, I get it, but is there something better about this, really, outside of maybe the sort of believable actor who's a high school kid, I guess, in this particular reboot and all that?
I'll say this Spider-Man reboot is the best movie they've put out since the Spider-Man 2 from, I'm going to butcher the release date here, 2003, I think. The Sam Raimi one. It's the best one since the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. So, to the movie's credit, it's a more successful reboot than the 2012 one.
Well, and look, nothing could be as awful as that thing they put out in the 1970s.
I didn't even watch it.
Well, look, you gotta watch it for context, because it's absolutely an abomination. Yeah, it's so bad that you just have to step back and marvel at how bad it is. And it's not a matter of budgetary limitations. It's just badly done all the way around. I mean, there's no redeeming quality to the 1970 Spider-Man movie.
To be fair, there's also no redeeming qualities to the 2014 Spider-Man movie.
Well, look, fair enough. Fair enough, absolutely. All right, let's get away from Spider-Man, because, a great character, but nobody's really fleshed him out, and I haven't seen the new one yet. I am curious to see what your view is on Wonder Woman, though, because we'll just stick with comic books for now, since that is a lot of where the material comes from at this point for Hollywood. Big deals being made about... This is a woman director. This is a woman superhero. This is the first time that a woman action star, which they forgot that there were a bunch of others before that. Okay, I do remember in the Terminator universe.
Okay, but we'd like to forget I'm not even going to remember the actress's name. Elektra. I'd like to forget Elektra. I'd like to forget the Halle Berry Catwoman. So... yes, this is the first female-led comic book movie as far as I'm concerned.
Well, no. A comic book movie, maybe. Okay, comic book movie, maybe. But you can't say that this is the first female action star where...
of course not.
For God's sake, they did a Tomb Raider movie.
I don't think anybody's making that claim. At least I haven't seen anybody making that claim. If they do, they're ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the first thing that I saw, on Twitter was... the response I guess you forgot about the Alien franchise, which they've again reloaded, by the way.
Actually, I think that's a prequel. I'm not sure.
Well, listen, prequel, reload, they're probably waiting to see what the box office was until they figure out whether it is or it isn't.
Wasn't very good. The box office return kind of sucked, actually.
Yeah, but when was the last time one of those movies was actually good? I mean,
Prometheus was pretty good.
well, no. I mean the Alien movies.
Prometheus. It was an Alien prequel.
Yeah, but
I like that movie. I'm in the minority, but I really enjoyed Prometheus.
okay. Listen, what am I going to do? There's no accounting for taste, but you
Nope.
can't tell me that Sigourney Weaver was not a female action star long before whoever this woman is that's playing Wonder Woman, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Gal Gadot, Gal Gadot. I don't think I've ever heard somebody say her name properly, so I'm not sure.
So what did you think of the imagery? I mean, did it serve the feminist purposes that people were touting it for to begin with? Was it like a big deal, as if, gee, this is a great presentation and packaging for a female character and all of that? Should it be celebrated for that or what?
They didn't make a big deal out of the fact that it was female-led, actually. The movie, at least, didn't.
Okay.
I mean, do they mention it a couple times? Sure. But a movie that doesn't mention it is going to seem like it's avoiding it.
Well, right, and of course we also had the fact that the Justice League was supposed to be coming back together, which we saw in Batman versus Superman, I guess.
Yes.
Or was it Superman versus Batman? I don't know. Unfortunately, it had an actor who I don't appreciate playing Batman, but okay.
Another movie that I will defend.
Well, look, okay, fine, but I just don't appreciate the guy playing Batman.
I thought he was the best part of that movie.
Okay, see, we can differ.
Yes.
We can have differences of opinions here.
Of course, I live to argue these points. But Wonder Woman was all right. It's like with most movies I've seen lately. The more I think about it, the less I like it. But I did like Wonder Woman. It's out of the 4 DC EU movies right now, it's below Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, but above Suicide Squad.
Okay, now how about the hidden imagery or hidden messages in the movie? Did you see any of those?
I only got one viewing of it, so no, I didn't. I haven't gone back to see it yet. I do intend to, though. I usually get most of the hidden messages on my second viewing of a movie.
Well, you know what? It almost makes me want to invite Daniel Lewis Crumpton on to see about what he has to say regarding some of the hidden messages in either Spider-Man or Wonder Woman, because I can guarantee you he saw Spider-Man, but he might have even seen Wonder Woman already.
I know he did. He posted on Facebook about how good Spider-Man was. So yeah, well, he's seen that. He and I had a really good discussion about Logan.
Yeah, well, no, that was interesting too, but I'm not into that at the moment. I'll tell you what, Tony, you with me? Can you drop on for a second?
Yeah, man.
You want to see if Daniel's available to jump on with this discussion? Because I would love to hear what he's got to say.
I'm on it.
Excellent, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Also, Pearse Redmond is apparently still available, but I think we'll just drag Daniel in at the moment because this ought to be interesting. You didn't catch any sort of hidden ideas or sort of somewhat, I don't know, occult ideas in any of these movies at all so far, huh? That we've talked about?
Nothing major. It's been like a month since I've seen Wonder Woman, so I don't have a very fresh picture in my mind for it. I do plan on watching it again, though, and I'll be able to give you a better report of symbolism, hidden messages once I see it for a second time.
Well, perhaps we can grab Daniel because I guarantee you he only had to view it once to pick up on something.
My eye's not trained that well yet.
Well, that's okay. let me ask you before we get him on, because we'll put it aside for the moment. What else do you see coming out? I mean, has there been anything of interest where there's some sort of social programming, predictive programming contained in the movies and the stuff that's being presented? Do you see any of that?
I am very curious about the messages that War for the Planet of the Apes is going to have.
Oh, as am I. You know what? Because that was a movie that contained a lot of hidden imagery and messaging the first time they did that series, and that of course is a classic sci-fi film. The allegorical implications about slavery and civil rights were, readily apparent to anybody who understood anything about that script the first time around, but they definitely changed up things quite a bit in the new Planet of the Apes universe.
Yes.
And, I've looked at the trailers, and honestly, I wasn't sold on this movie until the last one where I saw the Fallen City, and they were trying to, I don't know which one it was, but where they're trying to bring the power plant back up and all that.
Dawn, the second one.
There we go.
I just watched that again Monday.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of interesting stuff in there, but this one almost seems to beg that they're going to implant a lot of social messaging programming into the script for sure, because at this point, there's going to have to be, look, apes unite, they're strong. Okay, got you. Apes are not apes in the allegorical Planet of the Apes universe. What do you think they actually represent, Dylan?
Humans, obviously. It's sort of I don't know how to describe it, but the apes are taking the place of any oppressed group in history.
Yeah, they seem to be a catch-all. I would agree. Any group that has been enslaved, marginalized, sort of put aside and put outside of society, one way or another, you could find the representatives for within the ape family, if you will. I think that the new Planet of the Apes movie is going to be something to be seen. But let's rewind just a touch, because I want to hear from a guy I know knows comic books about comic book movies, man, because there's a lot of them. Daniel Lewis Crumpton from downloadedcontent.com.
Am I coming across pretty clear?
You sure are.
All right, I knew my douche Spidey sense was going off. I heard somebody talking trash about the new Spider-Man Homecoming movie on the Ochelli Effect. Wait a second now. Let's rewind this bad boy. And for one thing, I'm on holiday. Who of you two have seen Spider-Man Homecoming today?
Me.
I want to hear. You have. Now, what did you just say? Rewind that, Dylan.
I actually didn't say anything.
You're tired of these reboots? Did you just say something about you're tired of these reboots? I know that's kind of ham-fisted and cliche to say that it's a reboot, but for one thing, this is the Ultimate Spider-Man universe, so it's not technically a reboot if you want me to get nerd on you and everything. But please, Preacher Man, tell me why this Spider-Man Homecoming is inferior to the other Spider-Man movies, dude, because you got me in a kind of a mood, dude.
Where did I imply it was inferior? I actually said earlier it's the best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2.
Play that tape back, dog. I heard what you said.
Okay, go back. You will hear me say it's the best reboot.
In his defense, it's me who's saying I'm tired of the reboots, and he was saying that this is the best one to come out.
Chuck,
so,
okay, all right, yeah. Chuck, okay. Do you guys read Spider-Man?
I have read a few.
I have also read a few.
The word "few" that means you don't read Spider-Man. Either you read it or you don't. Do you read it or not?
I guess not.
Okay.
We caught you in an entertaining mood.
Cut this, and this will bleed red, white, and blue. And I ain't talking about the flag, man. I'm talking about Spider-Man, okay? Let me tell you something about Homecoming. Okay, the Sam Raimi first movie and second movie somewhat, except for Mary Jane just being a complete damsel in distress. That plot hole of the chick gets kidnapped in every movie. I mean, that's great for Sam Raimi stuff, okay?
Yeah.
But the first Sam Raimi movie was excellent. Okay, because we hadn't got a good chance to see Spider-Man on screen. But does it hold the test of time? And does it hold true to the spirit of Spider-Man, the essence of the comic books?
Nope.
Absolutely not. Somebody who learned to read reading Spider-Man, this Spider-Man Homecoming movie, that is Spider-Man. What's the symbol? Whoa, no. You were trash talking some Spider-Man, dog. You done got me in a fighting kind of mood, all right?
No. Whoa, you're going after the wrong guy. I was trash talking because
I'm getting you, Chuck.
You cannot possibly defend the 1970s Spider-Man, dude.
Okay,
you cannot.
Daniel, you're attacking. You're going after your ally here. I really like Spider-Man Homecoming. I think Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man yet. Yet somehow I'm trash talking it.
Now you do. Yeah, that's right. Now you go back.
Go back.
First, rewind. It's opening night.
Okay, rewind. Go for it.
All right, look. One thing, the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Let's just forget those two.
I actually like the first one. There's nothing redeeming about the second one, but I enjoyed the first one.
But the Amazing Spider-Man 2, we had to tolerate those. Because, whatever. But that really wasn't, I don't really know what that was. I mean, the second one was the whole Gwen Stacy thing getting her neck stabbed. That was pretty good, decently done. But the villain, but the thing is this really can't count as a reboot. Because this is a folding of that character where he's supposed to be, which is in the Marvel expanded universe. So I wouldn't count this as a reboot at all. Look, between the two different studios, Spider-Man could not be on screen with Iron Man prior to Civil War. Okay? So I really wouldn't slight this for being a quote reboot.
I'm not slighting it for that. All I'm saying is my excitement for the movie was dampened by the fact that I had just watched a really bad Spider-Man movie 3 years ago.
Well, there you go. But come on, man, don't ruin it for people on opening night, because I want a sequel to this one. I want
You're getting a sequel to this one. It's going to make money no matter, regardless of what I say on my corner of the internet.
I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm dead serious. I mean, the entire cast. Now, I'm not even going to joke. For about the first 15 minutes of the movie, I was worried because I was like, "Whoa, they went young, like really young." Once they introduce all the characters in Peter Parker's world, it's on, man. And as far as the symbolic element of this movie that you were looking for, Chuck, I mean, obviously anybody who's seen my Facebook wall today or the trailer, the image of him on the cross is the biggest image that you need to know about this entire movie.
How did I not see
that? How did you not see that?
I don't know. I'm going to be kicking myself for that.
So you're telling me, spoiler alert, they crucify Spider-Man in the movie, or what?
No.
This is in the trailer. This is on all the promo art where he's being stretched across and stretched apart in the form of the crucifix between the ferry. It was the Staten Island ferry. Now, this isn't the first time they've done this in a Spider-Man movie. If you go back to 2, they did it on the train, and then all of his followers carried his body. So if you watch Spider-Man movies, you'll see the Christophany symbolism all the time. And the whole idea of, whenever you're, this is Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Spider-Man just does it really, really well, which is you're young, you're gangly, you're awkward, you're not witty, or you kind of second guess yourself when you're Peter Parker, or you're Jesus of Nazareth, or you're Chuck Ochelli, or you're Dylan Wade. But when you slip into the mask of this creation of yours, well, great power and great responsibility, then everything is fluent and flawless and witty and pithy, and you're bouncing off of walls. So it's the idea of self-apotheosis. But yeah, look at the movie posters when you see Spider-Man stretched out in the form of the cross.
I guess I look for the Jesus imagery in a Superman movie more than a Spider-Man movie. I must have just missed it.
No, go back and look. It's all throughout there. And and I'll tell you another thing, man. In fact, y'all need to stop listening to the show right now. Just go see the movie, because the Sam Raimi movies, they were a little bit witty, but it was like, haha, the jokes weren't that great. This movie is absolutely hysterical. I mean, Peter Parker's jokes are so damn funny. I mean, and the reactions of the other people in the movie are so funny because it's what we're all thinking. I think Jeremy Jahns did a review where he said that, where he was like, they say what we're thinking, in the movie. But the humor is great. And I'll tell you another thing, and I'm sorry I'm ranting, but you could tell I just got out of the theater. I'm really hyped up about it. And I'm drinking a lot of coffee out of a huge Spider-Man mug head.
I almost want to do a separate review with you that lasts like 2 hours.
Michael Keaton nailed it.
He's the best villain they've done since Loki in 2012.
Jeremy Jahns made a good point. He said nowhere in this movie does Michael Keaton raise his voice. But when he's not, in the suit, in the Vulture suit, let's face it, the Vulture's a stupid character from the comic books. But when you put Michael Keaton in the role of Adrian Toomes, you got a dude you don't want to mess with. That dude, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but the whole scene, you've seen it in the trailers where he turns to and he says, "Hey, if you mess with me, I'll kill you, and I'll kill everybody that you know." Man, Michael Keaton nailed it, dude. I mean, he is by far the best villain, and he's not even a major villain in the Marvel Universe.
No, but they did really
he brought it.
They made him sympathetic, which Kevin Feige and all the studio heads over at Marvel look to this movie. Make your villains sympathetic from now on. Don't give us the villain from Thor 2. Oh, I'm evil because I'm evil.
Yeah, this guy you could relate to this guy. And to tell you the truth, I mean, look, in this world, Tony Stark was a damn arms dealer before, he goes and joins the Avengers. So what is Michael Keaton doing? He's a contractor. And I don't want to ruin it, but this is stuff that people already know by the trailers. I really don't want to ruin this movie for anybody. But you can see his rationale where he's like, dude, man, and he's trying to explain to Peter, he says, man, you're young. You just don't see how the world works. But the dichotomy,
right.
Yeah, well, he is right, but that brings out this incorruptibility from Peter Parker. But I'll tell you what, and I really don't want to ruin this, man, but the scene where he's underneath the debris, you know what I'm talking about, Dylan?
That might have been the second best scene in the movie. Behind the car scene.
And that right there tells me that Tom Holland, outside of the character of Spider-Man, because I'm sorry, he is the best Spider-Man and Peter Parker to ever fill their shoes.
I'll disagree a little bit. I think Andrew Garfield was a better Spider-Man, but that Tom Holland is a far better Peter Parker than anyone else is.
All right, we'll agree to disagree, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the scene where Tom Holland or Peter Parker is underneath the debris and he's screaming, he becomes the 15-year-old because he has to pretend to be a Spider-Man, but we know he's 15 years old, okay? But when he's underneath that debris and there is nobody, to me that represents, looking at symbolism, the dark night of the soul, right? The dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when he starts crying out, dude, that actor rips your freaking heart out in a Marvel movie, man. And you almost want to get up, lift it up, dude. That's what I'll look for in a movie, man. If a movie can get me to do that, to really be moved and connect and create that emotion, that's it. And I'm not talking just because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. Even if I wasn't a huge Spider-Man fan, this movie really makes you reflect on the inner hero, man. The inner hero.
I'm not a Spider-Man fan, and I did love this movie. I think Tom Holland was fantastic.
Okay, now we've gone over all that, and obviously we can hear that Daniel's still hyped up from having watched the movie. Okay, fine. Dude. But do you think that maybe you're missing...
underoos right now? I'm wearing underoos.
Listen, I don't need to know that, but you can always share that on Facebook too. That's enjoyable. That's your fans will appreciate that. Downloaded content on Facebook. Find the page. It's awesome. You can just watch all the wild imagery that Daniel likes to put out, and some of it is Spider-Man. So, thing is, Is there some other stuff here, though? Is there some social programming messages? Because I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of positivity. I'm hearing a lot of uplifting coming out of a Hollywood creation, and immediately my cynical mind kicks in. What is some of the other messages that are here? You know, like you said, there's this interactivity between an arms dealer and a contractor. I'm willing to bet there's some, you know, you're completely defeated sort of things going on here, unless you're a superhero. I don't know. You know, I'm speculating, obviously, but there's usually some dark messages that are built in. Well, yeah.
It's a dark movie to a degree, but it's also probably the most optimistic Spider-Man movie.
See, but that's on the surface.
You're talking about programming. You're talking about any kind of programming. Well, here's the way I look at that stuff. If that's what you're looking for, you'll find it. I mean, I think that if there is a commentary that it does make, I don't know if you guys have seen John Wick 1 or John Wick 2.
I've seen both. They're fantastic.
They're not only are they fantastic, but they're those two movies on second watch, if you really watch them twice, you'll find that they're extremely metaphysical and spiritual. Like, for example, did you notice, Dylan, that more so in John Wick Chapter 2, whenever John Wick and these assassins are going off and fighting each other and guns are blazing, normal people don't even react to them as if they are not there. Did you notice that?
That's accurate. I remember multiple scenes where that's not accurate, but yes, I do remember scenes where that does happen.
It's extreme. Yeah, the motif is extremely metaphysical. You're talking about, I mean, and one of the esoteric dissections of the Wick movies that I read that I firmly agree with, because I had to pause the movie because I said, something's not right here. This is not a gun fu movie. There's a deeper message. Why do they deliberately show these tattoos and the tattoo on his back that most people will believe that tattoo says fortune favors the bold? It doesn't. It says the goddess helps the strong or rescues the strong, but it's very, very close in Latin. Okay, but it shows these very Platonic, and I mean Plato, or Homer elements, like the blood disc, okay? Things like that. And a lot of the people who have dissected it are like, well, John Wick is a creature of hell who climbed out of hell to be with his wife and then gets brought back into hell. So all these people that he's killing, they're already dead anyway. And so, sure, but it's almost like they're in the metaphysical realm with humans. So they're on a subway train, John Wick and this assassin are fighting, and sure, the people, they show a slight acknowledgement of what's going on, but nowhere near what you or I would really do if that crap was happening on a train in front of us.
We'd freak out. Rightfully so.
Yeah, these people just kind of like, oh, look at that. So it's very metaphysical. So, but there's a concept from the John Wick movies that I want to superimpose on Spider-Man, which is,
well, hang on just a quick second, because I took that, and I know what you're talking about. It must have been the second one that I saw, and what I took it as is that sometimes you can witness something in the physical realm that has a lot more going on. So they might be seeing just a sort of a slow moving fist fight, which might be common where they are, but they're not actually seeing all of the interaction that's occurring, right? So they're not witnessing it, not necessarily because these people are in a wholly different realm, but because there are things going on far beyond the perception of the witness, right? And a lot of movies have actually done that. You see that kind of thing even in what was the movie where Keanu Reeves is the exorcist, essentially. Constantine. You see individuals that don't react there too. People that just keep walking by, even though things fall out of buildings and crash on the ground. A lot of odd stuff like that, because they're simply unaware, and that could be folded into a bunch of different concepts. It could be all about the sort of hypnotic state that most people are in, and they don't recognize the things that are really actually going on in the world, or it could be about the fact that there's a whole lot more that is unseen that is occurring, regardless of how awake you actually are, unless you're tuned precisely into that kind of channel, right? So there's a lot of different ways to look at that, I think, Daniel.
Well, talking about the negative and the positive of it. Well, let me summate what I was saying with the Wick series. In the Wick series, you know how they mentioned being above the table or having a seat at the table, which means you're like in the Illuminati, and everybody else, like John Wick down, are under the table, right? So that in the John Wick movies, they're talking about this hierarchy in this world that most people they don't even know about. Take that same concept and with this new Spider-Man movie, and this will be a little spoiler-ish, but not so much. I'll try to be to not spoil it. Peter Parker has an opportunity to play with the big boys at the conclusion of the movie, which is the Avengers, and makes the choice to, like, he is offered a quote seat at the table. And because of his interaction with Adrian Toomes, or Vulture, Michael Keaton, who is more Machiavellian, I think, it doesn't come out and say it, but I think that he chooses, to not take that mantle of sitting with the big boys because of his interaction with it. Did you pick up on that, Dylan? That he chose not to join the Avengers and he wanted to remain a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, like the B-level superhero.
I did, and I read a lot of people saying they didn't like that decision, and I just thought it was strange that anybody could dislike that decision by his character.
It makes sense, but
Yeah.
to try to talk about what Chuck was saying, here's the thing, okay? With these Hollywood movies and programming, it's the same as religion, okay? And it's the Christ figure or the hero's journey. Anything can program you to be a slave. If for example, Spider-Man, if I were waiting for Spider-Man to return or waiting for Spider-Man to appear or something like that, and put this savior or hero outside of myself, then it's that movie would be programming, and that movie would be a trap for me. However, if you look at the character, whether it be Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, or Spider-Man, and you say, this is a story about me, it's really a reflection of who I really, really deeply am and have the potential to be, right? I think that's how you should approach symbolism. Symbolism is going to be all around you. It is all around you. How you really need to, how it can shift you. It isn't, it doesn't matter. The world's greatest sorcerer can put as many subliminal messages in a movie, but if your consciousness is correct and you are the master mason of the temple of your own consciousness, it's all that symbolism is going to do is help add architecture to your memory palace. And so that's how I approach movies and books and music. I don't look for how this is enslaving me. What I look for is, how is this enhancing me to be a better person or to become my highest self? And you know what? I find it. I find it in anything I look for. Your mind is like a camera. What you focus on is what is going to develop in the picture. So for a lot of people who go see superhero movies, and they take the perception of, I hope that a hero comes to save me. It's programming. For people like myself that go, okay, what can I introspectively learn about this particular tale? Because there's nothing new under the sun. All these stories is a cycle that we all go through ourselves. How can this help me in my journey? How can I become the hero of the story? Then it's like religion. Religions can either free you or they can enslave you. So can, symbolism. Symbols are neutral. It's who's using them and who's observing them. So, that's just the way I look at it. And so as far as I go, seeing the Homecoming movie, I didn't see any, for me, I didn't see any limiting indoctrination.
Okay, and I understand that, but I gotta take issue with you saying that symbols are not are neutral. Symbols are neutral. Well, not necessarily. When they're being presented to you and packaged to you, there is usually an intent behind them, and that intent is not usually neutral. People that present symbols don't usually put it out there for neutrality's sake. So there is always an intent built into these things. Now, whether you decide to accept what is being presented or not is another issue, but one can objectively take a look at the symbology, if you will, or the symbolistic aspects of it. I don't know how to even say this word correctly. The symbols that are built into something, and you can measure an intent based on what's being presented here. Okay, I understand. I think perhaps your viewpoint is a little askew because of your identification with these types of characters, and it's understandable. But I am wondering if there's some things that are built in there that maybe you missed, and that's sometimes the most dangerous thing, because there are subliminal things that are fed into a lot of presentations that come from different entertainment aspects, different media aspects that present these things that do indeed have a pretty nasty intent behind them. Whether you get affected by that nasty intent or not is another issue, but sometimes these things are slipped in under the radar. I don't know if you've ever taken a look back at a movie, that you thought was just good old fashioned fun, all the way up until you decided to review it after your mind has been sort of educated about certain things later on in life, and then you see, wait a minute, there was a bunch of things here that I missed. And why? Because you become more aware. And you can't say, and nobody can say, that they are at the top, the absolute apex of awareness, so that they catch every single thing that slid past them. I've never known anybody who could honestly make that statement. So, I'm wondering if maybe you might have missed something here because of the identification with the character, the excitement, the imagery, as per usual, the normal distractions that are put into place, the bells and whistles, if you will, that are added, by the technology that has advanced movie making and made it a whole lot more of a slick thing to do. Nowadays, I'm wondering if maybe there might have been things that were slipped in there that got past you.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, if anything's possible, but here's what I do know. Is, obviously it's a Marvel movie, so you have to wait till after the credits, which, did you do that, Dylan?
Always.
Okay, so please don't ruin that for people, but that's worth it.
I haven't ruined anything.
Okay, when the lights went up, there was, because obviously it's opening day, the place was packed. When the lights went up, my mom, she went with me. There was a brand new Apple iPhone that was in the floor, right? And all I know is that as soon as the lights went up and my mom said, somebody left their phone, my first impulse was to grab the phone and quickly try to find a way to get that phone back to the person. That was, it didn't dawn on me until after we had left the theater. I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. I didn't even really, I didn't have time to process that, I don't know what you do with phones. I guess people can hack them. I don't know. I know there was no lock on it because, whatever. But I know that my first instinct, me personally, I don't know. Maybe somebody else's first instinct would be to, I don't know, jump off a freaking building. I don't know. My first instinct was to try to do something noble. So, but ultimately, I don't really believe that you have a cabal of individual people in Hollywood that are obviously they're putting messages and stuff. Duh. Okay, there's obviously that's a no-brainer. But I don't think that you have like some group of guys who are like, we're going to design this movie with all of these elements. I think that these elements crop up all around us because of the collective consciousness. I believe that that's why we're finding these concepts that are popping up in music, pop songs, for Christ's sake, in books and all these symbols and stuff. I believe it's the collective consciousness that's doing this, not like a concerted effort on behalf of a small group of people, in Hollywood or wherever. You know what I'm saying? That's just, I think that I'm a reflection of everyone and everyone is a reflection of me. And as I evolve and live in life, I know that I'm trying to live life in more joy, in more happiness, in more evolution, in more truth. And so I see that in people who are around me more and more and more. Do I see that some of them are a little bit, not where I'm at? Sure, it's my job to kind of help them along. Do I see people who have achieved greater amounts of it than me? Then it's my job to help them along. So that's just me. I mean, I'm sure that there were like 1 billion product placements for soda or something. You know, got to pay for the movie,
pay
man.
attention to those.
Yeah, I'm sure there were.
Doritos bags everywhere or something. Yeah, something.
Legos. I mean, Legos was there, obviously.
Okay, there was this really annoying product placement scene for Audi. It stuck out.
But you know, I never would have noticed it was an Audi unless the Audi commercial had come out first. You know, but you know what? To me, I value storytelling. You know, this is what our ancestors used to do to relay great truths through parables. And so cinema is another form of this. And, you know, I enjoy a good story being perpetuated. So, you know, I don't really mind so much product placement because we do live in a capitalist society. So, you know, Coke's got to give some money to Sony or whatever to make part 2, 3, and 4. As long as the stories are good and as long as I can take something really good from it, that stuff really doesn't bother me, man. You know, when it becomes gratuitous and it hacks up the story, then you know what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah. Product placement in a movie I love that gets gratuitous, Man of Steel. Do you know which scene? The fight in the city?
Yeah, there was a few. There was quite a few. Like,
in that in maybe a minute and a half, you get IHOP, Sears, U-Haul, 7-Eleven.
Yeah, but they're, you know, I mean, but I get it. I mean,
Well, but see, and somebody could argue too that that's just part of the visual landscape of America anyway.
I haven't seen an IHOP in
I'll put it to you this
8
way.
years.
Let me put it to you this way. I don't know if you guys, you know, they're filming Infinity War 1 and 2 in Georgia right now.
I'm so excited.
And there's an aerial shot of the amount of trailers for the actors. You got Infinity Wars 1 and 2 coming up. Look at the people who are in this freaking movie. Robert Downey Jr., how many millions of dollars does it cost to have him for one movie? You know, they better be doing... Hey, 70 million for one actor. Think about Scarlett Johansson.
Real quick, also in Georgia, they're currently filming Walking Dead too.
Yeah, I mean,
you guys in Georgia got everything.
Yeah, man, Georgia. Yeah, I don't know who's in charge of that department, but they're doing great. All the Marvel movies are filmed here, but I mean, so they have to do product placement to pay for that stuff. And you know what? Whatever, dude.
I understand product placement. It's just when it gets gratuitous that it pulls me out.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it's just in there somewhere and it doesn't detract from the story, okay, whatever. But hey, they got to pay. Look, at the end of the day, you got to think now. Whenever Marvel Studios or Sony or Disney comes to Georgia, how many jobs do they create doing those movies? So
but we've actually drifted away from where it is I was trying to go after. And I'm not saying that there is a generalized cabal. There's a commission that sits down and does this. But for one to say that people do not insert their propaganda and make script changes based on what it is they want to introduce into society, I mean, that's just naive. We know that happens constantly, whether it be for political purposes or social or otherwise. What were you going to say, Dylan?
I just was going to say that's called art. People, you can't have objective art that doesn't have an agenda behind it.
Well, not when it's being funded on such a massive scale. No.
Period. Period.
That's absolutely true, but that's the thing that I'm talking about here. I'm not saying that there's just this major cabal that produces a cookie cutter set of, this is the agenda, therefore this is the big meeting we had. 10,000 of us decided to do it because we're the movie studio controllers. I'm not claiming that there's a grand Hollywood Illuminati. What I'm saying is that there are individuals who don't necessarily have the most benevolent of intent in their heart, that sometimes plant things into these presentations that are slipped right on by because they are entertaining, they are engaging, and they are comfortable. And I think that the comic book movies especially are extremely susceptible to this because they are one of these cultural comfort zones for a lot of people. I mean, how much do you look forward to seeing one of these things because you read these comic books, because you're familiar with these characters, because you played with these toys? You know what I'm saying? In other words, this is actually the right place to slip these things in. Just like when they slip certain messages into Star Wars movies or, whatever. I mean, it's because it's a cultural phenomena that is a comfort zone. So this makes it extremely susceptible to some sort of programming aspects, which don't require a lot of people to participate in, but just a few. What about that, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, but and some people think I'm a little Machiavellian on this, but all of your great mystics throughout time said, don't throw your pearls before swine. I have to speak in parables because they're not worthy of the kingdom of heaven yet. They're not at the point of evolution where the higher messages. If you look at between DC, Marvel, and what Universal is starting to do, the major theme in all of these big Hollywood conglomerations is metahumans, evolution, okay, hybridization, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Batman. This is starting to sound like Greek mythology.
It's all about becoming something bigger than yourself.
And look, if we look up at the cosmos, because flat Earth, right? We know that we're moving through the cosmos at a point of evolution, that we're getting bombarded with rays and particles and atoms that we've never been bombarded with before. We are changing, and it's coming out in our art. It's coming out in our literature. It's coming out in our music, and it's surrounding us and staring us in the face that we are changing. So I love these superhero movies because it's like, what are you going to change into? Are you going to change? The whole Civil War thing with Captain America I thought was brilliant because it tied in the ideas of freedom and liberty with this whole thing, of metahumans and evolution, and with great power comes great responsibility. So look, some people, you don't necessarily want to, I don't know, go from a double helix to a triple helix and get metahuman abilities. You just don't want that. Some people would not use it for the right reasons. I think that's what these movies are trying to tell us, and so for those who would be so inclined to, all three of us, we know that we've read studies about telekinesis and telepathy and all sorts of metaphysical things that we know are documented. We know these things are possible. X-Files is out telling us what's going on. So this whole thing is a conscious effort on the part of the collective to make sure that as we're evolving spiritually, mentally, physically, that we do it in a noble way. So that's kind of what I see with these. That's why I love it, man, because I every time I go to see any of these icons, as somebody who is spiritual, I try to say, okay, what is the universe, which is everything around me, telling me about myself in this film? Who do I relate to in the story? And how can this character's journey help me in my reality and help the others around me? Okay? That's just how I approach it, and so I take those lessons away from these things that way.
Well, and that's probably why the most beloved characters to me in comic book history are actually, Punisher and Batman. Why? Because they don't contain any of the metahuman stuff, and they still achieve their objectives. They do battle with metahumans, in fact, and generally win. And I appreciate that. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm not going to evolve in this particular physical sense during this time around.
Maybe I'm strange, but in the comics, I've always identified with Vision, who's a robot, and Martian Manhunter, who's obviously an alien. I don't identify with the human characters nearly as much.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, I will slightly disagree with you, Chuck, because I believe that characters like Batman and Punisher do have a superpower, a superpower, and it's the human will. The human will is a superpower.
Mm.
You know, so and if you look at DC or Marvel, you're absolutely right. Punisher destroys everybody. Batman will destroy everybody, and they're human. But what is it that enables them to do that? The will. The will. I believe will is a superpower.
Well, you know what? If you categorize the human will, the human spirit as a superpower, then yeah, I have to agree with you. That's just the way that is. But it is the thing that can never seem to be broken entirely, unless we allow it to be broken. You know, and it doesn't matter what you're confronted with. Even the powers of a seeming god can be defeated by that thing which was gifted to us by the source, as far as I'm concerned. So, superpower? I don't know. It seems to be a natural ability that just some people just don't tap into very often. But if you do categorize it as a superpower, I guess that's a different way to look at it. What do you think of that, Dylan?
Can it really be considered a superpower if everyone has that ability?
Hey, look at Auschwitz. Not everybody has that ability, Dylan.
Not everybody taps into that ability. I believe everyone has it, but not everybody taps into it or ever uses it. Because
you have to have the will to tap into it, right? So it's a catch-22, dog. See what I'm saying? So.
No, but it works, though. I totally understand where you're going with it. We're down to the last couple of minutes, and we didn't even get into the transhuman thing, which I was going to discuss with Dylan, but that's another aspect that is also being normalized, the idea of man and machine merging together. Of course, this is nothing new. Well, Daniel, a little younger than me, but when we were growing up, there was the Terminator universe introduced to us. There were other sci-fi universes where cyborgs were present, but the Terminator universe, I think, is the kind of the go-to for us. RoboCop is another one. Yeah, that was another one that was around then, but that was a little more cartoony than the blood and guts of the Terminator universe. So. Although you can't argue with that scene when Peter Weller is like first assassinated from every angle possible with firearms, and what is that? The opening scene of RoboCop 1. It's probably the most horrendous single gunshot victim on screen ever. I think. Well, I don't know. What do you think, Daniel?
Man, RoboCop creeped me out. Terminator didn't, which is weird, but looking back, but yeah. But Ghost in the Shell, I'm not talking about the newer live action. I haven't seen that one yet. But the old Ghost in the Shell with the transhumanism, animation. Yeah, that was trippy. You know, and now finally cinema can catch up to that type of thing, and I'm glad. I think that I know we only got a second or two left, but transhumanism can be a good thing or a bad thing. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that.
Well, see, that was the parallel I was about to draw, is that, quite honestly, you just talked about how, you know, superpowers, metahumans, this kind of thing, whether it is a natural evolution or an artificial introduction to it, one way or another, it's going to have a lot to do with the character of those who wield it, as to exactly whether it's a good thing, a bad thing, whether we need the Sentinels to come out and destroy the X-Men, or they are actually the very best among us, one or the other, right?
I think we're looking at a split society with transhumanism. I really do. I think there's going to be an evolution of hardware and highware. There's going to be a split society, and you know.
I'm not clear on the definition of highware.
I just created it, so anytime anybody says it from here on out, I get a quarter.
Cool.
Highware, more conscious than hardware. More evolution through consciousness than technology. Okay. Like Powder. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but
I want to see that movie.
Transcending or freeing yourself from the material world of the demiurge and Yaldabaoth, you know.
That's a great one, Powder. I love that one.
Yeah.
Never watched it. I'll have to give it a shot.
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed is evolution through technology and through consciousness.
Underrated. The weirdest line in that movie is he is electrolysis. You know, for me anyway. That's kind of a spoiler, but not really because it's totally out of context. But go ahead and watch the movie, Dylan. You'll find it very interesting. Somewhat older than some of the movies that we usually suggest to you, but I got to tell you, it's one of those things that fits right in.
Older than The Godfather?
Well, look, man, what do you want me to do about The Godfather?
I watched it already. It's fine.
Okay, good. Because I have younger people complaining because it's like it's way too long and they drag out the story. And look,
it is quite long, but that doesn't detract from the movie as a whole.
Well, no, and there's a bunch of interesting things that emerge there that are kind of in the subtext of what's happening, but a lot of people don't understand it even to this day. One of these days I'm going to do a discussion on that film because it's not just a film about Italians, it's actually a film about America and its evolution and de-evolution in a very particular time period post-World War II. But anyway, here we go. We're just about done, and Daniel Lewis Crumpton joined me from downloadedcontent.com. Of course, that was unscheduled, but he heard us slamming a little Spider-Man and couldn't handle it, so I had to let him come on and speak his piece. And Dylan Wade, of course, we're going to continue to talk about films and TV shows and some of those other things that may contain some good and bad messages as the weeks come and go. So anything you guys want to add here in the last minute?
I got to jump, but just everybody go see Homecoming, man. Really, go see it. Just go pour your money into it. Do it. No, it's a really, really good time. It's a really good story. It's a really good movie. It's just all around good. Go see it for real.
I second that. It is very good.
See, and I haven't seen it yet, but
and Marissa Tomei is still hot. I don't give a damn.
Oh, well, look, I'm not going to argue with you there, okay?
I don't think any reasonable person with eyes can.
I'd be drinking her bath.
There you go. So the Ochelli Effect is done for the week, and we end on the drinking of Marissa Tomei's bathwater here on the show. That's a way to end the week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, interesting stuff coming up next week, including Richard Allen Miller, including our friend who won the season 1 of Alone on Monday. That ought to be an interesting discussion. And some of the usual cast of characters, the usual suspects, if you will, here on the Ochelli Effect. Stay tuned to Ochelli.com or whatever network you're listening to this on, because you need to support the media that supports your right to know what's really happening. And remember, I am Ochelli, you are the Effect. Have a good night, everybody.